Actually, the kind of detachment we're talking about is a true separation from the concrete minutiae of the mortal plane, the assumption of the body, of embodied existence, and thus individualized existence. Our first false god in life is the illusion of our separateness. This is what the Dwemer knew and could not explain to anyone who could not understand the depth of this philosophy, that we were all gods of a god, with the innate intelligence to resonate so fluidly with the energies of this universe that you can essentially shed—
What? No!
You can essentially shed your bounded skin, bound by time, by mass, by myth, and enter into a timeless realm free of these artificial limits, yet bonded within a collective. Let's not forget that Kagranat did not leave anyone on Mundus behind. Even Lorcan was always too attached to his baby, his Nirn, so captivated by his own creations that he essentially merged with them. It amazes me to no end that the farce of the Tribunal was so effective in their campaign of self-promotion, that these are not divine beings by any stretch, but rather the most base and glaring examples of mortal greed and megalomania. The desperation they display in their grasping for godhood is the clearest sign one could be hit over the head with. We are distracted by the dazzling sights and objects around us. The question is, are you content to stop there?
No one's quite sure what happened to the Dwemer. One theory is that their chief tonal architect tried to turn them into gods, but it backfired. The technology the dwarves possessed all those years ago is miles beyond us, even today. The chance to study it in person, I just couldn't resist.
Actually, I don't think it backfired. Quite the opposite.
Hello there. I don't think I've had the pleasure. I'm Lucian. And who might you be?
This is Xewl, a Dunmer and the oldest child of a Telvanni family of eccentric mage researchers, who, according to Xewl, wasted a lot of time poring over the flora and fauna of the northeastern archipelago of Morrowind and conducting esoteric experiments, when they could have been systematically excavating the otherworldly systems of the little-talked-about underground people called the Dwemer. If Xewl hadn't explored on her own in caves her younger siblings were too scared to enter, she might not have ever discovered Nechardark. They had just docked at the bizarre town of Dagon Fell for another long stint of research in the Sheogorath region, when Xewl, on another solo adventure, came across the first Dwemer ruin she had ever seen. Her perception of reality changed entirely in that moment. She couldn't believe everyone was content to languish among the dreary, ashen landscapes of Morrowind, while these golden cities lay beneath this whole time, each one an infinite treasure. There is no question to Xewl that she will devote herself to the study of the Dwemer and investigate every single Dwemer ruin on Tamriel. She is convinced she will figure out why the Dwemer disappeared. Why didn't more people talk about them? It seems insane to her that almost everyone who has an opinion on the Dwemer thinks they've failed, which seems to reflect their limitations as mortals rather than scholarly opinion based in research. She feels disgusted that the people of the First Era were too stupid and insecure to feel any curiosity or reverence for what the Dwemer were building under Red Mountain. Or maybe what's actually crazy is that she is trekking through the Velothi Mountains without really knowing where she is going, and there is a Dwemer ruin. Her first in Skyrim. Inside, before she can properly study the glowing orb hovering enchantingly around her, the panel of stone she is standing on suddenly flips, and she falls for what feels like an eternity. Glowing blue veins in the rock illuminate her descent, and she catches sight of gigantic bones, rib cages, far bigger than mammoths, embedded in the rock wall. She is so astonished and fascinated by these fleeting sights that there is no room for fear, her falling reverie broken as she is abruptly but safely submerged in deep water. She makes her way out through a mundane bandit cave, opening to a small pond, the tranquil forest setting she finds herself in, making her experience inside seem like it was all a dream. What was that? That freefall is completely unlike anything she had ever experienced in the Dwemer ruins she'd explored so far in Morrowind. and seemingly atypical for the Dwemer, who are usually so precise and controlled. It's called Xewl. Cagrin for music, but also Cagranak. Xewl would be city, but could also mean taken under. Cagranak City, city of music, a place where music was taken under. Clearly, she has much more to research. By now, she's read all about creation and its relentless renewal, about Mundus, of the various groups, of their towers, the idea of time, mortality and immortality, Aedra and Daedra, Anu and Padamai, the original duality, the first separation. The genius of the Dwemer was to turn away from this duality, embodying oneness by rejecting separation, the very same that first split the Elnafey into racial groups, that became the mortal population of Tamriel as we know it at this point in linear time, Xewl says out loud to the landscape as she walks south. If the Dwemer were not religious, or more accurately, did not believe in anything necessarily, could it be said that what they did not believe in most of all was their mortality, or beyond that, the distinction between mortality versus immortality, a duality, a choice that even the gods are swayed by? Aedra, Daedra, doesn't matter. They're obsessed with Mundus. Why is that? I don't even know the difference anymore between Oriel, Akatosh, and Lorkhan. Stopping in Dragon's Reach, she vigorously combs through the books in Farengar's library, ignoring his condescending quips. Typical wizard. All that matters is he has a copy of the Ethereum Wars, which points her to Arkangathams. Xewl encounters a curious spirit when she enters the ruin. But Xewl soon learns Katria is an intrepid researcher. Katria tells her how she died, how she happened to just miss the water that would have saved her. And yet here you are, Xewl tells her insistently. She couldn't have discovered the first piece of the Ethereum key without Katria. Xewl keeps having vivid dreams where she may take on any number of forms or mediums, unconstrained by mortal conditioning or false assumptions about reality, playing with the forces of the universe as freely as an animal frolicking in its native environment. Why is it possible in the dream and not in her supposed real life? There's that mountain, the throat of the world, the tallest versus the deepest, silence versus music, digging downward while charting the stars. It all adds up to something she can't quite put her finger on. The more she learns about the Dwemer, the more of their leftover objects she collects, the farther away she feels from them, as if her research dooms her to remain at a distance. Is she hearing correctly that some delicate imperial and dead man's drink of all places is talking about the Dwemer, and with fervor? He seems just as incompetent as her past assistants, but finally, someone who can understand the finer points of Dwemer history. Actually, the Numidium was not the only tool at Kagranak's disposal. Would he really make a move in haste, acting inaccurately when accuracy was one of the Dwemer's defining characteristics? The Dwemer never looked to the gods for their direction, and so did not anchor themselves to this plane. By the 15-1, there's a piece of the key just out in the open. Xewl is moved by Lucien's genuine excitement. No other assistant had been remotely interested in her research. And there's Katria. If only she didn't have to keep disappearing until the next time. At least Lucien is still here. She is thankful he hasn't yet perished. He is proving to be an excellent companion for testing out her theories. The Dwemer did, however, look to the moons and stars, Xewl continues. The 3 moons of Nirn could be considered to be the 3 entities or components of Lorkhan. The duality of Master or Jode and Secunda or Joan preserves the mortality that defines Mundus. And if Master and Secunda are vestiges of Lorkhan's physical body, was the Shadow Moon his soul? In one of her books, Kagranak's keening is described as a dagger made of the sound of the shadow of the moon. The reflection of Lorkhan's absence, the sound of his missingness, is what perhaps the Dwemer, or at least Kagranak, saw as an opportunity. The last Ethereum shard. now to meet Katria at the ruins of Bethalft. Xewl has never felt happier, and she realizes it's because she will see Katria. The working thesis she is forming, Xewl tells Katria and Lucian, is Kagranek caused the Dwemer to disappear intentionally, with the Falmer as their blind witness, a font to siphon from for their collective soul, and succeeded in using frequencies collected from Lorkhan's shadow to play Lorkhan's heart, mechanically divining the energy of the god, perhaps love itself, to transport them entirely out of the mortal plane. It is documented that the Dwemer population on Nirn was connected tonally using the calling ability, also known by the Psijic Order, that they could manipulate not only the material world, but also psychology through tonal forces, and were already traveling to other realms, potentially long before their disappearance, singing the planets into new songs. Xewl never expected she'd one day be talking theory and excavating ruins in the company of two Dwemer fanatics, let alone make a discovery as groundbreaking as the Ethereum Forge. She doesn't quite understand what's happening when Katria says goodbye for the last time. Take that out into the world? Katria starts to fade, then disappears completely. Xewl is shocked. She didn't even have a chance to ask her about her phantom form, or how to meet up again, maybe go on other expeditions, share ideas. She feels empty in a way she hasn't felt in a long time. That night, the cavern of Xewl appears in her dream. The immense space reflected in the dark pool below, the spindly stone walkway reaching out as if to embark on a ship. Actually, they have to go back to Xewl, she tells Lucian. Katria may have shown her something. Lucian stands by and keeps watch while she lets the golden orb of light commune with her, and falls over and over, past those enormous bones, maybe as big as the snow whales of old, trying to imprint a little more on her mind. During one of her falls, she laughs. She is descending an inverted tower. The Dwemer claimed the opposite from everyone else. They claimed oneness. They claimed transcendence. They worshipped themselves, and so fed their own people with this power, believing themselves into immortality, ascending by descending, becoming gods by knowing they already were. Did they possess some ageless knowledge? Were they collectively an ancient spirit left over from a previous Kalpa? Hidden in a pocket within the Valathi Mountains, perhaps with the last flying snow whales as their precious reminder. The whale's gift of song safely preserved in the same pool of water that always breaks her fall, the splash already a memory.